practical means, we create, for example today, a common place for discussion and progress. My dear Cornel, thank you for this invitation. We have and we shall have probably some contradictions, but they are nothing opposite our profound intellectual and practical brotherhood. He, Brother Cornwell. My talk this afternoon is about the relationship between ethics and politics, and more generally, between theory and practice. It's impossible to me to say correctly in English language many words, but especially the word ethics. So today, when I shall say ethique, you have to understand that it signifies ethics. There are three classical conceptions of ethics: the theological one, the natural conception, and the formalist conception. It will be my beginning. In the strict theological conception, the difference between good and evil is not properly a human difference. It is a transcendent difference which is ruled by God. So, theological ethics is an ethics of submission. You have to obey the law. The most important concept is the concept of law, divine law. In the natural conception, the difference between good and evil is completely a human one. You know by a sort of interior feeling, a sort of sensible voice, that some types of action are bad. This ethical conception is often based on pity. You have an immediate pity for the suffering human animal. So, natural ethics is an ethics of sensibility. The most important concept is the concept of victim. In the formal conception, the conception, for example, of Kant, the difference between good and evil depends on the form of action. And the form is subjective. The form is not the content or the goal of an action. The form is the subjective intention of action. If you act exclusively taking into consideration the moral duty, you are right. If you act taking into consideration your own interest, you are wrong. So, the formalist ethics is an ethics of purely subjective liberty. The most important concept is the concept of formal imperative, what Kant names categorical imperative. I have written in 1993 a short book under the title Ethics. book has been soon translated in English. And this book is a reaction against the recent revival of classical ethics. On one part, I think it is certainly necessary to think that there exist great differences between the human actions. Certainly, in a concrete situation, there are choices and decisions that are better than others. But I am opposed to theological, natural, and formal conceptions. In my opinion, there is no general, abstract, or divine law which says to us, or for us, what is the good and what is the evil. There is no general or natural feeling which, facing to victims, says to us what we have to do. And there is no formal imperative which permits us to clearly separate a good will and a bad will. I can say that very simply. Neither law, nor pity, nor pure intention can be foundations for ethics. All the point, all the difficulty for us is that to fix an orientation to action and judgment, there is no general rule. There is no immediate sensibility. There is no pure form. You have to think about a singular situation. You have to find in the situation itself the new rule for action. I propose something like an ethics of singularity. For example, what is the singularity of September 11? What is the singularity of this terrible attack against New York and other places in the United States? You cannot say that it is only violence, fanaticism, victims. It is all that. But it's not sufficient to decide what you have to do. There is no general understanding of this sort of atrocities. You have also to know what is today the geopolitical situation. September 11 is certainly an horrible crime. There is no discussion about this point. But we know today that revenge also can be crime against crime. You have to know why the life of a citizen of the rich Western world has nothing to do with the life of millions and millions of people in Africa. You have to think and decide about justice in the concrete situation. The French philosopher and my friend Gilles Deleuze was speaking of to believe in the world, to believe in the world itself. That is also to believe in the concrete life of people. In the situation we are speaking of, neither terrorists nor people of the rich Western world really believe in the world. The terrorists believe probably in God and believe certainly in death, in the power of death. But they don't believe in the world. They don't believe in the concrete life of people. And